For those who use fruit blenders at home or restaurant, you probably will know about this blender. It's a brand of fruit blender called Nija. Given a recent survey done by the federal government of Nigeria, this fruit blender, when priced in Texas, United States, is sold for $89, which is around 140,000 naira if you convert into naira. But the same product, when priced in a supermarket in Victoria Island, Lagos, was displayed for 944,999 naira. It's a huge difference if you ask me. What about over 800,000 naira most likely? Now, this huge difference made the federal government of Nigeria to set a month deadline for the general reduction of prices. Expect more details on this tonight on MarketSquare and other local plus international economic updates. I'd like to welcome you to MarketSquare. So good to have you join us tonight. My name is Oluwakpe Lubia, and I've got with me, as always, Olaito Baba today. Olaito, good evening.
Good evening, Pelumi. I feel pumped to be here today.
It's our first time in this month having this episode like this.
Yeah, that's our first time, and it feels good to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start with the first deadline. The federal government gives deadline for food price reduction. The federal government, through the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, has given 1 month deadline to traders and other market stakeholders involved in reducing prices to crash the prices of goods. This was announced by the newly appointed executive vice chairman of the FCCPC, Mr. Tuji Bello, at a recent one-day stakeholders engagement on exploitative pricing. The meeting was called for to address the growing trend of unreasonable pricing of consumer goods and services, and also the awesome practice of market associations trying to inflate prices every single time. Let's see a clip from that meeting quickly.
2018 gives us the powers to do what it is that we're doing and to call people to order. You can go to jail for doing what you are doing.
Some of the traders have pinned the price hike on the inconsistency of the exchange rate. Some days I know it's 1,500 naira per dollar, and some other days it's 1,605 naira per dollar. In fact, before now, you must have seen the exchange rate figures for today displayed on the screen by Paul. Some of the attendees who I believe are importers voiced out how the cost of the high import duty has contributed to the increased price of consumer goods and services we have seen so far. So good. Now, like the members of the organized private sector have said that the government is just passing blames, maybe unconsciously sending the wrong signal to potential and prospective foreign and domestic investors. If you look at the exchange rate figures, it's changing every single time. You look at that also affects the import duties. Mr. Taiwo Idele has suggested that the government should pin it down at some point, maybe to 1,000 naira. And the traders have also mentioned that as a reason for which the prices of things have increased over time. It looks like it's focused on foodstuffs and commodities imported into the country. So how about, do you think this is a right call that's made by the federal government of Nigeria? And is it that people just want to increase the price of things, or it's just what it is?
Okay, I won't say that people just want to increase the price of things. Putting aside import duties and exchange rate, let's also look into poor infrastructures. Like bad roads, we have epileptic electricity in Nigeria. Now, taking electricity, for example, manufacturers make use of electricity to produce some of this product. Now, for cases whereby they have to make use of generators, or all this diesel prices of this moment is on the high side. Now, buying diesel, they have to calculate their expenses and the profit they make at the end of the month. So this means that they will have to add to the price of things before they push it out. Also, we can also look at government policies. This is when we're talking about excessive taxes collected by the government. Now, the government are collecting taxes, and like I said earlier, they have to make sure that they calculate all of this with the expenditures for the month. And the main purpose of doing a business is to make profit. So when they put all of this together, they have to also make sure that by the time they do the calculation, the profit they will be getting at the end of the month is reasonable enough in order to keep pushing the product and the manufacturing business. Now, we have monopolies too for organizations or for manufacturing companies that they know that they don't have competitors. They can just decide on their own, which we can also say that, well, it's on the side of the manufacturers too. So they can decide on their own to just hike the price of things because they don't have people competing with them. And lastly, we can also look at insecurity and the limited availability of raw materials that are used. Some of these raw materials are even imported into the country. So it means they have to put all of these together in order to decide the amount they will put on the prices of products out there.
Okay, well, I think I connect some of the points you have mentioned. I guess the government has also made a move that we'll get to most likely on the show tonight at MarketSquare, given the fact that you can't just pour all the blames on traders because the government has a role to play in making sure that people have things for themselves. The welfare of the people is something that is of priority to the government. So we're going to get to that in a moment. But for now, let's talk about good news. The good news recently made available in public. Dangote Refinery begins PMS shipment in Nigeria. Another milestone in the Nigerian oil and gas industry has been the achieved Dangote Refinery operation in Nigeria. Dangote Refinery has rolled out its first shipment of premium motor spirit that we all know as petrol fuel in the country. The refinery will be able to process over 650,000 barrels per day, exactly 650,000 barrels a day of oil when at full capacity. And is expected to be able to turn more than half of that into gasoline. As you can see on the screen is Mr. Lingo Dangote, who is the CEO of the refinery at the plant, to witness the ground unveiling of the petroleum product following many months of delays and glitch. What a sound of victory. Take a listen to a part of this speech at the unveiling.
I want to personally also thank Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for creating this idea of Naira for crude and also Naira for the product.
Okay, all right, so with Dangote Refinery already rolling out shipment of petroleum products, what does this hold for the Nigerian economy?
Just like you said, this is going to be good news for the citizens and the government. Now, the government, because the government cannot generate revenue, because Dangote Refinery, we have to pay taxes, levies, and duties to the government, which is a way of also boosting our economy. And for the people, it creates job for them. Now, people now have jobs to do. Thousands of people would benefit from this.
Definitely.
Now, it can be directly and indirectly. Directly because some people will be working in the refinery, while some are just like doing manual jobs. People that sell food stuff in front of the refinery too will also start to make money.
Sure.
And for all of this, people pay taxes. For workers that are working for the Dangote Refinery, they collect salary, and as a result, the government will take out taxes from the salary, which is also going back to the government pocket. Now, this is really a huge one for the government. Another thing is it's going to boost local businesses, local industries,
Sure.
Like petrochemicals company, like plastic companies that would also be working hand in hand with the Dangote Refinery. And another thing is that it reduces the import dependence. Nigeria has been they've been reliant on importing of petroleum for a while now. With this new development, it's going to help with the production of our own petroleum. And as a result, all of this is a good thing for the government, is a good thing for our economy, because the money earned from all of this is still going to the government pocket at the long run. So it's going to boost our economy in a tremendous way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, while there are issues about the pricing, what's going to happen afterwards, it is a good news nonetheless. The third headline is about the federal government's decision to remove tax on food items, house rents, public transport, and others. Remember that in the first headline, I already mentioned to you about the government's attempt to reduce the tax burden on the people. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who is the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy, has revealed that the committee has submitted a proposal to the federal government that contains a request for the removal of taxes on food, on public transportation, on house rent, and even on other basic necessities critical to the well-being and the welfare and the improvement of the standard of living of Nigerians. Now, you're going to see a video in a moment, but just hold on a moment. The committee headed by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele was launched sometime last year, precisely in August 2023, to help to help the government to understand how to get taxes even more and make tax collection more effective than it has always been. Now, Taiwo Idele has been on ground for a while. He was in charge, I think, at PwC at some point, making things happen there. And it was brought in by the federal government to ensure that we're able to synergize energies together to make sure that there's a new tax framework created to help drive economic growth, our economy in Nigeria, development across the country. And the head of the committee, during an interview on Channels TV with our very own Shewo Okibaloye, had a session where he mentioned about what these will imply. And he mentioned that the proposal also includes exemption of VAT, value added tax, on these essential commodities. They're going to see a video now that tells you where he made it simple for a layman to understand what these will mean. Take a listen.
I think that from the fiscal policy and tax perspective, we can make it at least more affordable for the Nigerian people to be able to afford those basic necessities. Shared passenger transportation is completely tax-free. But if you hire a taxi, so we assume that you're not the poorest Nigerian, then you have to pay the tax. Whereas if you get into a bus, like people in Lagos, getting into Danfo and Molue, that would be completely tax-free. So that's what we...
All right, so the government has mentioned tax incentives for employers who provide transportation for their workers in this season. A good move, if you ask me. I think about 2 days ago, we learned that the cost of getting a liter of petrol has even risen to over 800 naira. Now, how will this stimulate economic development? I know for sure this is going to stimulate job creation. What do you think?
Okay, so one thing is there's going to be a reduction in the congestion of public transport. With this new development, people would, most especially, let's take Lagos for example. There's always traffic in the morning and in the evening, and that is for people that works. So because they have to transport themselves from one point to another, and they have to make use of public transport, there's always the congestion. And another thing is also going to improve productivity for a worker that is going to the office and is not stressed because there's a transport by the company that is going to take them from where they are to the office. It would make them more productive, and as a result of this productivity, it means that the company would also be able to earn more and be able to perform better. Now, as a result of this, it would also help in the revenue they generate at the end of the month, which means that the money that will be sent to the government at the end of the month or at the end of the year would be on the larger part. So another thing is it serves as a cost relief for the employers themselves. And it's also a strategy that would benefit employers to hire good ends. Definitely. Now, this is most people wants to work for organization that gives them benefits, that gives them something to look out for. So if organizations are adding this as one of the criteria they are going to give to anybody they are going to employ, it would mean that better ends, good ends would want to work for them because they know that taking out transportation, that means that they don't have to think about the amount they are going to spend on transportation every month. So it's going to, in a good way, help organization and even the employees in that organization.
I think this is a good news if you ask me. It's a good news if you ask me that the government is planning to help to reduce the tax burden on the people. I really, truly like this idea. But something else that has also been said is it also will bring about a lot of more development in our country. It looks like our country is more attractive to the Nigerian people and even foreigners from outside who want to come into the country and invest. Now, if this is part, because this is it has been submitted to the president for approval before taking to the Senate House to put that into law, and that would be most likely a good move made there by the government, because at the moment people are crying, people are mourning, things are not very easy in the country, and it can also mean something. So I think something else is also that given the fact that they want to help to relieve the tax burden, employers will also look out for ways where they can employ more people. I think there's an incentive for employing more people as well. And so if you're going to employ people into your company, it's going to bring about development. The person gets paid salary, and the government is saying, if you do that, we're going to reduce the tax you're going to pay. And also, if you provide transportation for the people, we also will reduce the tax you will pay. So this is a good move and a big applaud to Mr. Taiwo Oyedele for this move. I hope that we'll see more reforms in the future. Now, it's time to get international updates, and that will be done by a very own international update correspondent. Olai Today, over to you now.
All right. right, thank you, Kwelumi. So on the fourth headline, we're talking about Elon Musk's Starlink debut in Botswana. Now,
Good news.
Starlink, the satellite internet service owned by Elon Musk, has officially launched its services in Botswana, and that is really a huge news. It's a good one.
Absolutely.
Now, further expanding its reach across, Botswana is now the sixth Southern African country to host the satellite internet service, joining the league of growing African nations taking advantage of Starlink's advanced satellite technology.
Sure.
This marks another step towards bridging the digital divide on the continent. This initiative aims to expand the internet access nationwide, improving connectivity in both urban and rural areas. Starlink designed to deliver high-speed, low-latency broadband internet to locations where traditional infrastructure is scarce, like, rural area. Botswana is now the sixth Southern African country to host the satellite internet service, following in the first step of Zambia, Eswatini, Malawi, Mozambique, and Madagascar. So, Palumi, what can you say about the Botswana Communication Regulatory Authority rejecting Starlink license application in February 2024?
It's amazing how what should be a thing of joy at some point was also rejected. We've seen that this is happening in Africa. Countries outside this continent, they seem to appreciate capitalism. They seem to appreciate when private individuals come on board to make sure things happen there. And we need to applaud Elon Musk for pushing this to Botswana as well. It's been in Nigeria for a while, and it provides about speedy internet access to the Nigerian people and brings about increased production. Because sometimes if you have somebody who remote workers will tell you how that having internet access 24/7 on a faster level will bring about efficiency, bring about effectiveness. They can deliver their jobs on time. Some of them have to even get solar inverters to work and also have this internet access to make things work for them. So, but again, I guess the reason for that was that they were afraid of the weight of Starlink, how that it could come in and displace the existing standard and the existing, push them to even go beyond their lines. But the government, I think, had to see that this is going to help them to make things work. Their revenue will be increased and all. So that it was the reason they rejected it, because some of the local internet providers were clamoring to the government, telling them not to accept that info at first, so that they're able to build their grounds and before they're able to allow Starlink to make express itself in their country.
All right, thank you very much. So looking at the economy, how do you think this internet service improvement would improve Botswana connectivity and also its economy?
How did I even know you're going to ask me the question? I already spoken about one thing already, that it's going to bring about increased revenue in the country. When they come in, they're paying tax to the government, and that will in some way generate revenue for the country. The country can now do more than it's doing already. Also, it makes Botswana a place where people can go to make things happen for themselves. I said it already, that if you have good internet access in your country, what that does, it will improve remote workers, their condition, where somebody has access to solar panel, which you could buy, solar inverter you could buy, and then you also would have Starlink as a means of accessing the internet, working anywhere from the world, just in your room and making things happen for yourself, making more money right there. So we're seeing more people getting jobs, seeing more people being able to gain access to international jobs, remote workers getting more gigs than they are getting before. So people can now do their online interviews, scholarship interviews, because they now have easy access to the internet. So it's an all-encompassing impact that will bring in Botswana. I guess the people of Botswana should be excited about this new development.
All right, thank you. Now, Botswana is said to have 87% internet penetration, but has the highest data prices in Africa. How do you think this new development would tackle the issue?
Well, again, it has to be said that Botswana is a country that I believe is in Africa and is making things work for its people. So it will have very powerful penetration if the country seems to open up to the possibility. Africa needs to learn how to open up to possibilities. We've seen people say, okay, Africa, we've had too many things. People come here, grab our market, take our market from us. But for God's sake, Elon Musk is one of us. And it's just a way of creating competition in the country and making sure that internet service access is more reliable and on a faster level.
All right. Looking at it, I think we have a lot of good news today. Now, this is about China and Africa trade that reaches 1.19 trillion yuan. Now, China-Africa trade rose 5.5% year-on-year to 1.19 trillion yuan, about 166.6 billion US dollars within the 7th month of the year, surpassing the trade record of 2023, which is 282.1 US billion dollars, according to the General Administration Customs. China is the continent's largest bilateral trade partner, and in the recent years, China and Africa trade has witnessed remarkable growth and development, which has further boosted trade facilitation between the two sides. It has maintained its partnership with Africa for 15 consecutive years
That's a
as
lot.
its largest trading partner. Now, in the first 7 months of this year, China's trade with Africa in intermediate goods grew by 6.4% compared to the previous year, representing 68% of the total trade value. Now, Pelumi, China exports more to Africa than it imports from Africa, creating a massive trade imbalance. How does this trade imbalance impact the economic development of African countries?
Well, I think that you have mentioned it quite rightly that China exports more to Africa than it imports from Africa, creating a massive trade imbalance in Africa between both countries. Now, the thing is, China is a more advanced country, and you can tell about that already. There is the first world nations, and there's also the third world nations. And I did mention in MarketSquare at one point that there is a big world between the first and the third world nations, and it's good that we are having things being imported from China to the country, but again, it affects the African country itself, because that can deny the country from helping to improve the standard of living of the people in terms of those who are operating infant industries, where you have it that somebody wants to build his company, for instance, and then because the good is cheaper from China, the person's company dies, his dream dies, and that's where exporting more to your country or importing more to your country is very, very not advisable in many ways, because you're going to kill infant industries there. What somebody can produce toothpick in your country, toothpaste, and then you're importing that, you're killing the people's inspiration to be able to make things happen in your country. So the imbalance is a lot more cool if the country, the foreign country, the first world country, is more advanced in technology. There is nothing bad about collaboration. In fact, they say that it is said that if the battle gets tough, the tough gets going. If the going gets tough, the tough gets going. But in fact, in this time and age, in 2024, if the going gets tough, the tough seeks collaboration, and I think it's good. You can't produce everything in your country by yourself. You always will need to reach out, but it only becomes something that is not so good if you have to import every single thing into your country. Then you are preparing yourself for the danger and the pain that many countries experience during COVID-19.
All right. So, looking at partnership, having been partners for 15 years is a long time, if you would ask me. Now, China and Africa have been trade partners for 15 years. What do you believe sustained this China-Africa trade?
It has to be beneficial on both sides. It has to be mutually beneficial to both parties. And I think even some days ago, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in China to speak with the president with regards to improving the relationship between China and Nigeria. And it's a good thing, yeah, because it means that we are able to export our stars, and they're also able to import things here to a country, or able to import things into our country from China to Nigeria, and bringing about some more improvement in maybe even borrowing money from China. That it makes it even easier. So what has sustained the relationship between China and Africa so far so good has been the fact that Africans borrow. Africans borrow a lot. Many countries in Africa borrow. You also have that. We have also been able to show that we have solid young people in our country who are smart and sound, and they can make their function in different countries in the world. Also, that the relationship has also been one that you have Chinese in Nigeria walking around the street of Lagos, jogging in the morning because they are at peace with the country. We are not. So in terms of keeping their people safe in our country, it's been very fair, and that's one reason. Those are some of the reasons that our relationship has grown over the years. And I guess again, we buy more of their products. They sell most of of their phones, they bring it down here. They bring most of their products down to Nigeria, or also in Africa. Also, most of our roads, you see Chinese on the road trying to make things work there. So it's pretty much has been a 15 years of solid relationship based on mutual enjoyment. I just hope that the Chinese are not enjoying more than Nigerians are with regards to the relationship.
All right. Thank you so much for that intelligent analysis, Oluwapelumi. And thank you for joining us tonight on MarketSquare.
Well, we encourage you to follow us on all our social media platforms, everywhere, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, everywhere possible to get updates every time we post a video.
My name is Olaitan Babatunde.
And my name is Oluwapelumi. I will see you at the next one.